Welcome to the Level Up Your Band podcast, episode 24. Welcome back to the Level Up Your Band podcast. My name is Gavin Patterson, and I'm here with Julian Pombo.
Hey.
I like your shirt today, by the way. I didn't mention that.
Thank you. It's a sunny day, and I thought I'd try and reflect that in the home. So
Is it sunny? I didn't actually.
It is sunny where I am, anyway.
I didn't notice.
It doesn't look it because I'm probably in the darkest bit of the house.
Yeah. No. It's a very summery shirt. If you're not on YouTube, I'll try and describe it. It's a blue sky with some cloudy bits and little palm trees all over it. It's very tasteful. I like it.
Yeah. It's my favourite.
How are you this week?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm not bad. How are you?
Aye, good. Just working away.
Same old.
Trying to do some stuff. Trying to open the studio up. Had my first client in last night, which was yourself.
Yes, it was.
Socially distanced rehearsal. Of sorts,
yeah.
Which I'm told went swimmingly well, which is good to know.
Yeah, it was good. Sorry if I'm looking. My cat is chewing things.
That's perfectly normal
so I'm
for
just
cats. Typical cat behaviour.
I'm just trying to get things away from her. She's
just been carried away. Great.
She's been going on something of an eating, just a chewing spree. Just books are her favourite right now. She'll chew books. So you'll just find like a book somewhere that just has like just the tip, just like a corner. It's just chewed to oblivion. Thankfully, she doesn't chew the text, so she's not ripping out whole pages, just little corners.
Right.
It's very cute.
That's unfortunate.
It's not cute
I'm
at
glad.
all.
I'm glad I don't have any cats currently. My mum has 3 cats, but yeah, I'd be quite happy to live without cats for a little while.
You know what? Me too.
So anyway, this is not the cat episode. We have lots of cat episodes, and the thumbnail for episode 22, I think, just has a picture of you holding your cat. So yeah, people will enjoy that. But this episode is following on from last week's episode on stagecraft and how to set up for a gig and stuff. So last week we talked about
live gigs.
like preparing for live gigs and you know what to do before you actually get to the stage. But today we're talking about once you're on the stage and what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some things that I've added in here.
There's a lot.
There is a lot
to cover
because it's quite a big topic. But there's a kind of rough order that you should maybe think about. And there was one thing that I forgot to mention last week, and I would say it comes under gig prep, is your instrument maintenance before you actually get to the gig. So obviously, but that's a given. We say that all the time, and like turning up and then tuning your guitar on stage and then realizing that you can't get it in tune. You have to tune it like 4 times, and it's just not working. I've seen that many times. Just
making sure that your strings are fresh enough and all that stuff.
Yeah, have fresh strings before you turn up and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, fresh strings are a given for recording every time. Doesn't matter if the strings have only been on there for like 24 hours. New strings. I mean, that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, so we'll start at the top. First thing, when you get to the venue, you've loaded in. This is from last week's episode. You've loaded in. You've gotten all the information you've got. So now what do you do with it? Your set time. When are you playing? When are you due to play? So it depends on the sort of situation. So in this sort of setup where there's like 4 bands on, 5 bands on, it's a band night, like an indie night, a rock night, a metal night, a whatever.
Which
which
just say
slots have you got?
5 bands is way too much. But
yes, it is.
That's another topic for another day.
Yeah. So I mean, we've all been there. If you've
all
played
been there.
enough gigs, like playing some tiny little venue in the basement of some place in Glasgow or whatever, and you're like, oh, you're 4th on, and by the time it gets to you, like, everyone's tired, and then doesn't want to hear you.
Wants to go home.
And wants to go home, yeah. Because what tends to happen is people only go to these places to see their friend's band, and then once they've seen their friend's band, they leave because they don't want to see any other bands, unless the headline band is like amazing and super well known. Everyone just leaves. So by the time you get to the last act, if it's a headline slot, then everyone will stay for the end headline. But if it's just a 5 band playing a gig, by the time you get to the 5th band, everyone has left. But that's the first thing you find out.
So when you're on,
just roughly during the sound check, you'll probably get a sheet of paper from some promoter or someone in the venue saying the running order of who's on when, so you know when you should be ready to go. So you're 3rd on, and the second band is currently halfway through their set. You start making your way to the green room, picking up your gear, getting everything ready to go, tuning your instruments by the side of the stage, and you're assembling your crew, your band, at the side of the stage. I can't count how many times I've been in the situation where it's like they're on their last song or second last song, and you're missing a member, and you're standing at the side of the stage, you're looking, where's John? He's at the toilet. Oh, we're on now. Like, oh.
That happened. That reminded me of something. Not before they. Well, actually, technically, it was before they were meant to go on. I was playing a gig, and the band that was supposed to be opening, their drummer was nowhere to be seen. They didn't know where he was. He turned up like he wasn't there for sound check or anything. He basically turned up just as they were about to go on. He just went, "Oh, sorry," he just turned up and then played. So that was fun. I can't remember where that was at. I think it was the 13th note. Yes, it was
13th note. Oh, that's
yeah,
that's in Merchant City. It's the vegan bar.
That's right.
I think.
Yeah, opposite the what's it called? The big car park.
Yep.
It's there, and Strung Out's there and all that.
Yeah, so just make sure that everyone knows. I thought we were on 4th. No, we're on 3rd. All that stuff. You know, it's like just communication.
Yeah.
So once the band have finished playing that were on before you, and they're done.
Yeah.
Do not do that thing that people do, is just rush on stage as soon as they're done, and annoy them. So you've got, say that there's 2 guitarists, a bassist and a drummer, and they're finished, take their bow, whatever, and then they start unplugging all their leads and their pedal boards and all that. The last thing that they want, and the last thing that anyone wants, is you coming in with your big ass pedal board and just annoying them, and your cymbal cases and all that, and just dumping it right in front of them and slowing everything up. Wait until they're done and then go on. It annoys me so much. Like, I'm taking cymbals off the kit. Like, I've got my crash cymbal off, taking my ride off, and then the other drummer is currently, he's putting his cymbals on while I'm taking mine off, and we're tripping over each. Oh, sorry mate. And I'm trying to move things, and I'm moving the bass drum to try and get my pedals out and my snare off, and he's just standing there looking at me like, hurry up. Hurry up. It's like, I'll be 2 minutes. It's actually quicker if you wait for me and then come on once everything's done. Because as a result of that pressure, I feel like, oh, I need to hurry, and I forget things. I leave things behind, like stick bags.
Yeah. And the other thing I've been guilty of doing this is that they'll be wrapping up, and then I come on stage and I'm like, oh, well done, that was really good. Being genuine. I'm not like that just because I'm a little I'm a little tired. It sounded like I was being sarcastic there, but I'm in this case I'm being very serious.
Yep. Not a good set,
very
guys.
complimentary, and not a good set, guys. Actually, being as genuine as possible. But the last thing that they want is, it's the same. You know, you're in their way. Tell them after they get off stage that they did a really good job. You know, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It just slows the whole process down and then annoys the sound engineer. When you're just making a mess and knocking things over. If there's more people, especially if it's a small stage and there's mics set up in front of amps, and then people are barging into them, and it displaces and moves all the mics around, and how to annoy a sound engineer. Just, it's okay if I just move this. No, it's not okay. I get that in the studio all the time. I've got room mics set up, and I measure them from the wall so that they are equidistant from the snare drum or whatever. They're all measured out, and then you get people just
right.
Oh, I'm just gonna put my amp here, and then they just move the stand. I'm like, no, just no. I spent
don't do that.
Half an hour getting all these mics placed just so that you could just move them out of the way. So when you get onto the stage, they get you've said good set guys to the band.
No, don't say
don't
that.
say that. When they've left and you're setting up your gear, make sure you have everything you need, everything you use, set up where you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rush it so that you can just go, because if you're oh, I need my delay pedal here, I need my reverb pedal here at this particular point, and make sure you've got spare plectrums, you've got your stick bag with spare sticks. Amount of times you dropped sticks in gigs is ridiculous. You've never dropped a stick before in your life, and then the minute you have a gig, you drop it immediately, and you need another one to grab. If you rush your setup, which I've done, if you rush it and maybe things aren't exactly where you want them, you set up the cymbals and the ride cymbal's not quite where you usually have it, but you're like, oh, it's fine. I need to get on. We're rushing. We need to get on at the set. Don't do that, because when you go to use that and it's not in the position that you usually like it really messes with your playing. It does with me anyway. If I'm it just makes me feel uncomfortable for the whole gig. I don't know if that's the same with the guitar kind of setup. It's kind of more uniform. I mean, your pedal board, if you have a pedal board, it's usually just you just take the lid off and it's just there.
Yeah.
But with drums, because it's a different kit at every venue and it's a different setup at every venue, it's very varied in what you can, what can go wrong and stuff. And I also put here, if you don't set up properly before you start playing, you're gonna notice things that annoy you during the performance, and then you have to fiddle and muck about.
It just looks bad.
It does look bad. The guitar amp, the guitarist going over to the guitar amp 17 times during the gig because he didn't set his tone up properly, or whatever.
It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't make you... I don't know why people do that. I feel like maybe they think it makes them look more... It makes them look like they really know what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? I'm just perfecting the sound for each song. It's just,
I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know.
It's really distracting,
I've never played guitar on stage. I never will.
I mean...
Probably.
When I've... Certainly, as a bass player, don't mess about with you'll find when you're at home, try out different configurations, just as a little bit of advice to people, like for bass anyway.
Yeah.
Keep your keep your amp flat, and what I mean by that is
Everything at 0.
treble, mid, bass at 0, 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
and then play with that, see how that sounds, and then you'll notice little things, because that's a much better starting place rather than like, well, I'll start and I'll cut the mids off.
Yeah.
And so I've ended up just, playing a little bit. I've ended up with a sound that I find particularly works for me. And so that's fiddling with amps and things like that. That's kind of where
use the sound check for fiddling. So when you turn up at a venue and you're using an amp that you've never used before, I think I've said this before. I was surprised to learn that there was someone came into the studio once who said, on my amp at home I have the treble at 5 and the bass at 3. So when I was setting up my amp, they wanted me to put it to the treble to 5 and bass at 3, and I was like, they potentially don't realize that every amp is different, and my 5 won't sound like your 5. It's just those little metrics that are on that amp are there just to give you a guide, and so that you can remember where you put it.
Totally.
It does not. It's not universal.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I prefer to use, rather than like numbers like that, I prefer to use like clock times. So like 12, 9 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever. Because I find that it gives you a little bit more playroom, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because a 5 on an amp will be in a completely different place from your 5 in your amp or whatever.
The way to think about bass, mid, and treble settings on an amplifier is like the settings on a toaster. It is different for every toaster. A 3 on one toaster is like...
It's different for every kind of
hot
bread as well.
And a 3 on another toaster is burnt. It just depends on the toaster. And 3 on a Marshall amp it describes what the setting is volume, an increase in volume or a decrease in volume at a certain frequency. And each amp has their own like frequency curves and stuff. So some amps have a wider frequency curve, some have a more precise and narrow. So it's like comparing apples to oranges. You just you can't have the same. So what I would recommend doing is at sound check, if it's not your own amp, if you have your own amp, then you just know your settings that you like. So you've learned the amp. But if it's an amp you've never used before, start at 0, like Julian said, and then play away, and then tweak through the sound check until you're happy. Get your phone out and snapshot the amp. That's the settings for the bass, mid, and treble. So when you get up on stage after that band's finished playing, and the first thing you do after you get your pedal board is get your phone out, look at the picture, and get the settings back to where you had them.
Yeah. Some people even put strips of like electrical tape and just write it right, or like masking tape and just write down the settings with a Sharpie. That works too. Yeah. Whatever you want, and just a quick drawing. Actually, do you know what? I should probably start doing that, because I've got them all in my head, but it would be quite useful to.
When I used to mix on an analog desk in the studio, I used to have folders on my phone for different songs. So I had like song by some band, and I had all my EQ settings saved as pictures. I used to snapshot all my desk because I couldn't recall anything. Wow. So I did 24 channels. I had to go snap, and the volume and the pan and everything. So if I was working on a song today, I'm working on XYZ song, I had to get out the pictures of the last time I was working on it and go through every single channel to get all the settings back to kind of where I had them.
So apologies for the piano sound. I've got a cat
quite all right.
here. Oh, for sorry. She's just being... Can you go away?
I just heard clatters.
Yeah. It's like, can you stop? You do this every time. Same time, every day. And when I'm teaching and when I'm recording, it's always sorry.
Episode 25,
Sorry.
why you should not get a cat.
Yes, actually, you know what? Yeah, why you should,
Do an
get a
episode on-
goldfish.
Get a goldfish.
Yeah, get something that isn't sentient enough to actually cause trouble.
No. So, this is Hazel, everyone.
Hi. Can you stop?
The band, the podcast cat.
The podcast cat, yeah. Can you not do
Nuisance.
this? Not just
Okay, moving on to the next.
Go.
So you've got all your equipment set up. It's all set to how you had it at soundcheck, or as close to.
Uh-huh.
Bear in mind, don't just plug your guitar in and just go for it, because 9 times out of 10, the guy that's been on before you has mucked up all the settings on the amp. So if all the treble is turned off and you start playing your guitar and it's muffled as anything, oh, what's wrong? Something wrong with my guitar. Look at the amp. Remember that that's a thing that exists. Don't need to tell guitarists that, they know. So next one, something pet peeve of mine: tune your guitar before you play. So I would say tune it in the green room when you're just about to come on.
Yeah.
And as you've plugged everything in and your rig and you've plugged everything ready to go, tune before you play your first song.
Yeah.
Using your
Just a
built-in
little,
tuner.
just a quick check.
And
depending
I've
on-
I've got in brackets here in all caps: kill your guitar amp.
I mean, usually I would have thought that people would have tuning pedals, which already does that for you. But if you don't, just turn the volume on your guitar off. You
Yep.
know.
If it's a clip-on tuner, just turn the volume down, because no one wants to hear da 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 da. No one wants to hear that.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it sucks.
So
Yeah,
that's
check it in
like-
between songs. Like,
Yeah, in between
here's
songs,
like a little
definitely.
thing. Like, it's a good thing to do. Don't check after every single song. I mean, know your guitar.
If you can hear something, then go. Yeah, it's usually
Yeah, totally. Every 3 songs is probably a good. I mean, I'm a bass player. I've like bass strings.
Yeah, they're pretty solid.
Once you're tuned up, unless you're using really light gauge strings, you're probably good. You're good to go.
Yeah,
But guitar strings, and depending on what kind of guitar you're using as well, if it's some kind of, weird jangly thing,
Cheap
then
piece
you
of
might.
plywood.
Well, no, a very expensive piece of plywood probably.
Yeah, I've had countless guitars that can't stay in tune recording. Usually cheap knockoff Strat copies with warped fretboards.
What about, like, have you ever had any Jaguars or Jazz Masters or kind of guitars like that?
Yeah,
Because I heard they can sometimes be a bit
yeah.
of a nightmare.
If they're not properly looked after, if they're dropped and
Yeah.
stuff like that, because of the weird floating bridge thing that I think it's the
Yeah.
Jaguar has.
Yeah, the Jazz Master has one as well.
I had a pal who
sure.
had a Jag, and if you just touch the whammy bar, I mean, if you just look at it like slightly, it just goes out of tune immediately. You can't. It's just like it's so. I don't know. I think it was maybe the model he had. It was just as soon as you just touch it, it's just like immediately out of tune. Although I've got a Strat with a whammy bar, and I can basically bash about with the whammy bar all day, and it never goes out of tune. But
Yeah.
I've never dropped it, so maybe it's, I don't know. I don't really know that much about guitars. Anyway, moving on. Set list. Get your set lists out. So before, this is kind of gig prep again, but make sure that you have a set list written out for each member and it's clearly visible. So
Yeah.
usually, I mean, you can write it out if you wish. You can print it out, whatever's easier. And I would give a set list to every member, because there's nothing worse than, oh, what's next, and I'm guilty of that. I'll do it all the time. Having just a little piece of paper on the floor with your 10 songs or whatever you're going to play, just as a guide, because your memory just goes in stressful situations, and you end up playing the intro to the wrong song.
What you can do, which I've done, playing double bass, is I've taped a set list to the actual instrument, either to the side or to the back.
Aye.
So that's a good little tip for any double bass players that are listening.
Yeah.
I only do this if you have a bass that you're willing to put,
sticky tape on.
That you're willing to tape pieces of paper on.
Yeah.
Not some kind of 25, 65 grand
upright
beast,
bass, not ideal.
that's been playing in orchestras since the 18 whatevers. Don't do it on that.
No.
But if you've got a little cheap and cheerful upright bass like mine, then go for it.
Yeah, it's just a wee extra thing. I remember there was one time last year when we were on tour, the opening night, I nearly had a heart attack, because I had my little set list and I had it, and I was like, okay, that's the set list, that's fine. And we played a song. We didn't really know how we were going to introduce each song. We didn't know if it was just going to go straight in, or we were going to announce it, or what. And I had a mini heart attack because I didn't know this was going to happen. But at the end of one of our songs, we finished and the audience were clapping, and then you randomly just started playing bass solos. And I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? I was like, what's he doing?
As I want to do.
I was like, what are you doing? You unprofessional person. I just said, I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening. And I looked over at other people in the band, and I'm like, is he meant to be doing that? And then it turned out that you were just doing a really elaborate bass solo to a song that starts as a bass solo that we have. And it became clear. I'm like, oh, this is in D, isn't it? Oh, this must be that song. And then I was like, oh yeah, I have a set list. I was like, oh, this is that song. I'm like, this is like the longest bass solo ever.
Yeah,
it's great.
It was one of those moments where I was just like, oh, that would be that. I quite fancy doing an extend. I have the time. There's no other band on after us, so I have the time to just play a really nice bass solo. So I thought I'd do that.
You had the stage. You were the one starting the song, so you had the freedom to do that, and it wouldn't interfere with anyone. So that was fine. But I did have kittens when that happened. I was like, have they learned a song without me? I don't know this one. My heart went up into my mouth. I was like, oh my God. But no, it was good because we kept that little routine for the whole tour because it just worked so well. So it was quite cool.
Yeah, it worked better on some gigs than others. Some people were a little rowdier.
Yeah.
If you got a nice quiet audience, bass solos.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're paying attention and sitting listening quietly, then it was.
Otherwise, people will just talk.
Yeah,
because they always do.
Yeah, because just a bass solo when you're drunk, I don't know, it just doesn't land the same as when you're sober.
Just bass solos, just in general, are just a total mood killer. Like a bass solo in the middle, it's just like ugh. It just sounds like.
It's funny. I speak to people like often about like famous bass players and stuff, and I've yet to find a non-musician who's heard of Jaco Pastorius. It's always musicians or primarily bassists who have heard of him. You're trying to rack your brains now. You're like, what non-musician do I know that has heard of Jaco Pastorius that isn't my mum and dad?
Yeah, well, it was actually my dad that put me on to Jaco Pastorius. So
okay, well there you go.
There you go. But I guess my dad's a bit of a rare case in that he's actually one of those people that actually enjoys jazz. So
yeah. So, following on from having your set list written out, this is kind of an extra one. Some people call it a cheat sheet or a chord chart or lyric sheets on stage if you need it to remind yourself of what is going on in your life.
Or, we do live in the 21st century. We do have iPads.
Yeah.
There's actually a really good, you've probably heard of it. You probably use it. Band Helper.
I do not use it, no.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. It's a really cool app. I actually use it in the wedding band, funnily enough. But it is a set list maker, basically. So you can set it. So you can set up a set list, and it has every single song, lyrics, chords, whatever you need. And here's where it gets really cool, is that you can set it up so everybody's iPads are all linked together.
Ooh.
And then if somebody changes, to the next song, everybody else's does.
That's sick. I like that.
It's really cool. It's really useful.
I don't need it.
You do need
personally.
a Wi-Fi connection. That's the only thing. So you need to have like some kind of router or something so that everybody can sort of connect.
Okay.
Just a local area connection.
Yeah. When I play drums, I don't have any chord charts or cheat sheets or anything. For the wedding band, all I have is a set list that gets handed to me at the start of the night, and it's 90% the same every night. There's some requests that get thrown in, but everything we do is kind of we don't have specific arrangements of tunes like most wedding bands do, like exact replicas of the original tunes. We just kind of get the gist of it and then take it from there. So we don't have structure. We just wing it. We just kind of wing every song. That's our format. So if we're like, we just kind of point to each other into like what sections we're going into. So we have little symbols for like verse, chorus, solo.
Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. So we just kind of like loop bits, and if we're having fun and the crowd's having fun, we'll maybe do another chorus or another solo or another whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like cheat sheets are kind of. I know we have like sheets where it's just like, here are the verse chords, here are the chorus chords, here are the general lyrics, and then we just kind of chop and change. But I don't use that.
I just read the next point. And it's funny because it just reminded me of my bass solo.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned
the surprise bass solo.
So the reason why that worked is because you had room to do it, and it wasn't going to interfere with anyone else. So what the point is play what you rehearsed. Don't try to be fancy. Yeah. This is not the time to write a new guitar solo when you are mid-song. Yeah. But my point to this is, if you have a specific part pre-written and it's rehearsed, just play that. Don't complicate your life. But if your music is jam-based or improvisational, just do whatever you can handle. Don't dive into something you haven't practiced enough because it will just sound bad. So in the case of your bass solo, that is kind of an improvisational jam bass solo thing. And you're comfortable with doing that because you're a jazz musician, you're used to that. And you didn't go out of your comfort zone of your sort of improvisational skills. You get some people who practice a certain lick all the time, and then they jump up on stage and then think they can just write a new Hendrix lick and then can't because they're not Jimi Hendrix, and then they just look stupid, and they end up playing something really bad. Don't go out of your comfort zone especially in a live gig, because you've got so much pressure. You feel like you've built up with adrenaline. You're like, I can try this thing I've been thinking of doing, and you haven't maybe practiced that enough. I would say you should maybe tend to not do that and just play what you rehearsed, because it can freak out your band members. Like, what's he doing? I did it once at a gig. I learned the hard way. We were playing. Do you remember we played the first year we played Eden Festival? Right. We got to our last song, and the place was absolutely jumping, and we had Naked Jesus jumping and headbopping.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but there was a guy who looked like Jesus who was topless.
he was wearing a kilt.
Yeah,
It was just
it was glorious.
what a scene.
And like 3 feet of mud, and everyone was bouncing, and I, in my infinite wisdom, decided to make another I go another time round the B section, and I was like, again, and everyone's like, no, but I kept playing, and then you all had to keep going with me, and I was like, oh, that was such a bad call. We should have just ended it, because I'm like, these guys are still bouncing. We could go another time, just another 8 bars or something. This was the end of the last tune. I don't know if you remember. You're looking at me as if you don't remember.
No, all I remember is mud. That's the only thing I can remember.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible, horrendous.
Pretty moody.
But it was adrenaline based. It was like, oh, this is really good. Let's go again. And the communication didn't get to everybody, and it ended up just looking stupid. And we should have just did it the way we rehearsed it. And I was trying to be fancy. I was trying to be spontaneous, and it was a bad idea in that case. But in the case of your bass solo, where you were on your own, it didn't really make any impact to anyone else, apart from my internal mind, where I just was like, panic, 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 panic. What's he doing? Where are we going? What, am I supposed to come in here? Blah, blah, blah. And then I clicked halfway through, so it was fine. And as a drummer, I don't know, from a bassist perspective, but like I've written, don't dive into something you haven't practiced enough before.
Yeah.
For example,
yes.
I've played some gigs where I sometimes play with a big band, and you know, you sit and you watch videos of other like drummers playing solo sections and stuff like that. Like, you know, there's a tune coming up where there's quite a heavy drum solo, especially in big bands. There's quite a lot of like drum solo passages, and like big band, they feature quite heavily. It's like drum and then band. It's like what do you call that? Like a reply. It's like a call and reply kind of thing.
Call and response.
Call and response. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So the drums play like a wee cool riff groove thing, and then the trumpets mirror what the drummer just did, and it's just like call and response. It's quite common in big band.
There is a name for it. Fours, because it's 4 bars and then 4 bars and then
That's
4
right.
bars and then 4
That's
bars.
right.
Yeah.
So that at that point, that's a really that's a tricky thing to do, because the band gets split. So it's me, then them, then me, then them. And if you, the drummer, can't keep a regular meter through that, when they come in, they'll just come in like because they don't know where one is. So you have to be cool, and your solo has to be fancy and fast and cool sounding, whilst also keeping the time. It's really tricky, because if you get it wrong, if you try to throw in some stuff that you're maybe not that comfortable with and you muck it up, the whole thing comes to a grinding halt, and it's so embarrassing. And it's happened a few times to me, and it just reinforces this idea of play what you rehearsed, don't try to be fancy, just do what you can do. And if you're going to do something really fancy and weird, make sure you've practiced it before doing it on the gig. That's what I would say about that. I don't know if you have any experience with things like that.
Yeah, I mean, just it's more of a maturity thing. I find that when you're quite young, I'm saying this as a 25-year-old. I'm still quite young, but when you're a child, a literal child,
17, 18.
18.
Joining bands.
You are, when you do solo, it's you want to show off, and it's a real sign of maturity when you can just rein it back and not play as many notes as possible, but just playing the right notes. It's better to play I'm not against playing fast, because if you can do it, totally do it, 100%. Great, fantastic, do it. But if you're not quite comfortable with doing that, take your time. And even then, just try and be tasteful about it. I don't know. That's all I'd have to say, really, because it can be. You need to keep a level head, with soloing, because you can sort of go into full panic mode and just I need to play really fast and I need to be impressive. No, it's just play solo.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
Again, yes. I feel like that's becoming the motto of this podcast.
It's like doing something complicated and fancy badly is not as good as doing something simple really, really well. Keep that in mind. Look at AC/DC, for goodness sake. Some of their songs have got 3 chords, 2 chords, and they do it so well. It's so simple, but they do it so well. And that's why their songs are so catchy. That's why so many millions of people listen to their music, is because it's something very simple, executed very, very well. Status Quo is another one, whether you like it or hate it, whatever. So, moving on to the chat.
Yes.
I've just put keep the chat lighthearted, brief, and humorous where possible. So this is probably more your field of expertise, as I have never chatted.
I guess. So the thing about chat is that it's not as difficult as people make it for themselves, right? So there's a couple of things that I sort of think about, is that when you're going to be chatting, right, just be yourself, right? It sounds really cliche, but just be yourself, right? Don't put on a persona unless you are good at doing that kind of thing, and you've worked on it. So in my case, I just go on and I'm what you're listening to right now. This is how I talk to people when I'm gigging. I just talk to them like I'm having a chat with somebody who's in my front room.
Hi, I'm Julian. Tune your guitar.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'll just and again, just keeping it simple, and it sounds dumb. It sounds really, really, really silly to just say something as cliche as be yourself, but it's probably the best advice you can probably get for stage chat. So yeah. And here's another thing actually, which is just in general, I do have certain rules, which is that I speak to the audience the way that I would speak to an older person, or like my granny, for example. But what I mean by that is not talk really slowly, right? Or really loud, if your grandma's deaf or something, don't talk to them like a deaf granny, but just watch what kind of language you're using. Don't be effing and jeffing constantly all the time. Read your audience. If they're younger, then maybe you can get away with it a little bit more. But I generally find it actually doesn't come across as good, swearing a lot. It comes across as a little bit unprofessional. I think people can switch off. The occasional one, maybe, here or there, for a little bit of emphasis. I don't know.
It depends.
But in general, I try to not swear at all if I can help it. It just depends.
Yeah.
On the situation.
If you're at a wedding band and you're at a wedding, I would say never ever swear ever.
No, never do that.
If you're at a punk gig, it's practically you should basically use the F word in between every word. That's just the vibe of the event.
I guess, yeah. But I in general, I just try not to. That's just for me. And keep your speech natural. I feel that umming and erring is okay. It's that there's nothing wrong with it. That sounds maybe that's a little controversial, but I don't think that, taking a pause, thinking about what you're going to say, maybe a little here, a little there is fine. But if it's, hey, we're and we are going to play this song and I wrote it, that so you hear that sometimes, and that's just nerves.
Yeah.
So generally, rather than fill the space, if you need to think about what you're going to say next,
pause.
Say nothing.
Yeah.
Pause. Yeah. So there's that. And then down here you've written another good note, which is mention the name of your band, especially at the start and especially at the end. If you want to make a joke about it, we can. You can rather. I did that when we went on tour. It was just constantly, at the start it was just like, oh yeah, so if you don't know already, we're Eriska. Oh, and that was so and so, such and such song by Eriska, and it just dumb stuff like that. So you can do that if you like.
Yeah.
But just keep it quite, mention it at the start, mention it at the end. Don't mumble it. Don't go up to thank you, we are Satan's Bitch and we're going to play for the songs to you tonight. I don't know if you caught the name of the band there.
Oh, that's another pet peeve of mine, alongside... I probably hate this more than guitarists tuning with their amp open. Alright guys, so what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just looked at the waveform there and I think I peaked. Oops. Apologies.
Basically, speak clearly and confidently when you're, especially when you're saying your band's name. We are.
Yes.
Your band's name.
Blah.
If you're just throwing it away like, we are blah, 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 and you can see us on Facebook, Spotify, bye, cheers, bye. That's what the audience hear. Just for you people out there listening, when you say your band name, they can't hear you. 90% of the time, they will not be able to hear you. So slow it down, say it clearly, make sure everyone can understand what you're saying. If your lips are pressed right up against the microphone and it's, and also if you're too far away from the microphone, just when you're singing, I would say it's like an inch away from the microphone. But when you're speaking, you can back up to maybe 3 inches and speak loud and clear and slowly.
Yeah. Speak from your. I know this because I used to, me being a flute player and all that, speak from your diaphragm, if you know what I mean. Big and loud, not from like up here or
Same goes for singing, because if you're a little quiet singer, your sound engineer will have to turn your microphone up so high it'll start squealing.
Yeah, they'll hate you.
They'll hate you, yeah. So, mention your band name throughout the gig, and where possible, if you've got a drum skin or a banner or a poster or something that has your band name written, even at the merch table, display that and make sure that it's well displayed so that people can see you. Because if people go, oh, I really like that band, and then they look at the ticket and your name's not on the ticket and they can't remember what the band was and they didn't understand you when you said your band name, you've lost a potential fan. So because they won't be bothered, they won't go around and ask. They'll just whatever. So just make it easier for people. Speaking of merch table, mention that you've got a merch table. So you're halfway through the gig. So you guys enjoying your night? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. We are...
Do you want to support us? Blah, blah.
Yeah. We have a merch table set up over there. You can go and check out our products. Blah, blah, blah. Shill.
Yeah.
Make it a joke. Even just like be unashamed. Just be unashamed. Just like, we need money. give us money.
Yeah, please throw money at us, please.
Yeah, we have some stuff for you to buy. Own it, just like don't kid anyone on. Just like you can even say it like the best way of supporting us is actually merch.
Yeah. Yes.
Like you said a couple of weeks ago that was it Kiss? The band Kiss made like $100 million in merch alone.
Yeah, which is like it was something dumb. It was like $2 million like on royalties, and then
$100 million on merch.
And in the same amount of time, they made like $200 million on merch or something, and that was selling like all sorts of stuff.
Trading cards,
lunch boxes. They did have trading cards. Yes,
Fantastic.
They did. I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
like everything.
Great. So, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna promote stuff, everyone hates ads. Everyone hates promotions. So be funny about it. Just be like, you could even do a bit where you pretend to be like a telephone operator or something stupid like that. Just make it fun and interesting.
We did a bit on the tour where I wore an Eriska t-shirt underneath my shirt.
Yeah, you just unveiled it.
Yeah, I just ripped my shirt off.
And we're like, Julian, where did you get that lovely t-shirt? Well, funny you should ask. There happens to be a merch table over there where you can get them for a shiny new one for £10 or £15 or whatever.
Whatever our shirts are, and you can look just as fabulous as me.
Yeah, make it comedic, make it kind of relatable.
Yeah. You're an entertainer,
Yeah, that's what you're there for, really.
That's the thing that people forget, is that we are the modern day. We are the jesters of our
core
time.
Jesters, yeah.
Yeah.
You should write a book by that
in
title.
A good way. No disrespect to jesters in the past, like really important people. Geniuses. I'd argue, but anyway,
they are. So a couple more points and then we're done. So something we're not mentioned yet. If you need changes to your monitor mix mid-performance, the sort of common practice thing to do is point to the thing you want changed and then point to the ceiling or to the floor to indicate what volume level you want. So
nice and clearly.
If you're a bassist and you're playing away and you want more guitar, point at the person you want turned up. So your mate, point at them. Make sure the sound engineer can see you, and they will be looking if they're any good. They'll always be watching the stage and watching for changes, especially early on in your set.
They shouldn't be sitting on their phone,
No, if they are, then they're a terrible sound engineer. So point to the thing you want and go up or down, and the guy will sort that for you. And if they didn't hear you or didn't see you and they are on their phone or having a pint in between songs, just make a quick little thing on the mic. Just say, could I get more guitar in my monitor mix, please? Or can the bass player get more guitar in their mix or less guitar in their mix or whatever it happens to be? It's they should, like 9 times out of 10, if they're a really good sound engineer, they're sometimes at the side of the stage. It depends on how big the venue is. Most of the time in little venues, it's only done by one person and maybe an assistant. So you'll have one guy up the back of the hall who does sound for the front of house. That's the front of house means the PA system that goes to the crowd, and they do monitor mixes for the band as well. But in big stages and sort of touring band circumstances, there are 2 engineers. You've got an engineer, front of house engineer, who just does the PA, and you have a headphone mix / monitor engineer who sits at stage left. It's always stage left. So you standing on the stage, and if you're standing on the stage facing the audience, on your left is stage left. If you look over, there'll be a guy sitting at a desk. He does all the monitors. And you'll look to him and you will point at something up or down. Whenever we have done really high professional, well broadcasted, high attended gigs with lots of money, like George Square in Glasgow or any big festivals or stuff like that, there's always a guy on stage left, like just eyes wide open, just staring at the band. He is on it, absolutely on it. I say he or she is absolutely on it, and any like gesture you make on stage, they are watching, and they're really good at their job. So communication again, that's what I would say about that. And while you're having your very humorous chat,
Yeah,
we've said this before, thank the venue, other bands if they have hosted the event. So if you're like playing, like there's 3 bands on and you're number 2 and the third band is the headline, the one everyone's coming there to see, thank them or the promoter who's put the gig on, and thank your sound guys and learn their names.
And just do the usual, like, oh, how awesome were blah blah blah, and oh, who's looking forward to see blah blah blah, you know, do the usual.
There's something that I've kind of missed out, but it's not really on stage performance, but it's like after stage performance. I don't think we need to do an episode on that because it's
good set guys.
The good set guys thing. Stay around if you can, and to see the other bands out of courtesy.
Yeah,
you know, it's sometimes you have to, like, if you're working in the morning and it's like 11:30 and like, fine, but especially if it's a headline slot and a headline usually have approached your band because they've maybe heard some stuff and go, these guys are really good. I think their art, their artistic vision fits with our sound. When you go to any gig like The Who or Rolling Stones or whatever, the people opening up for those large acts, they're not a completely different genre. They may be slightly different here or there, but they have made a decision. These guys fit with us, and they've made considerations. They've listened to your stuff. So the least you can do is stay for their set. You know? Anytime we've picked a band to support us, we've always considered their music and their vibe, and we usually respect them as people, and we like their stuff. Like, I know like the bands that we've had support us, we're actually fans of their music. You know, some of us are either friends or like know them or listen to the music. So it would be bad crack for you as the support artist to just disappear after the headline band has really thought about you. It just wouldn't be very nice. That's basically all I had to say in that. There was the general. Maybe you could say a few things before we finished. The general like on stage nerves and how to cope with them.
Well,
it's something I don't really have anymore to any degree.
Yeah, in general, don't have caffeine before playing.
All right, okay.
If you're not, if you're a very sort of nervy, kind of twitchy type, you know, don't do that. That, and then you'll need to go to the toilet, you know, while you're on stage, and that's bad. And in terms of, and using alcohol to maybe like calm your nerves, totally depends. Just don't make a habit out of it, I guess. Sometimes I have, once or twice, I don't have a pint or a half pint or something before playing, because you will feel bloated and gross, totally. And you'll if you must have a drink, you know, be a grown up, have a whiskey or a wee gin and tonic or something light, a spirit of some description. If you must, I'm not saying that you should. Just out there, because I don't want to turn anybody on the podcast into alcoholics, you know, coping with performance anxiety by drinking alcohol. Because that can be an issue. That can be an issue. But just in general, just accept your feelings, I guess. So, usually, like when people go, "Oh, I'm feeling nervous," they worry about the fact that they're feeling nervous, and then it just turns into a big spiral, and
infinite
it's just bad.
Circle.
Yeah. So, infinite regress or whatever. It's just bad. It's a bad time. So just you're feeling nervous, just go, cool. I am nervous.
I think did I
okay.
tell you there was a time I used to get really nervous before gigs, and I think the reason I got nervous was because I was worried that I would mess up my part that I was
same,
playing.
man, same.
And that largely disappeared when I messed up. I messed up on stage.
Yeah.
And when I had messed up, I learned what it felt like to mess up in front of a very large audience. I'm talking 2,000 people at the Royal Concert Hall in Glasgow. I was like, I couldn't eat for 6 hours before the gig. I was shaking. I went up on stage and I messed up because of my nerves. And the feeling of messing up on stage was far less as bad. It felt less bad than the actual feeling of nerves leading up to the event. And when I realized that, I was like, I don't need to be nervous. And from then on, I've never been as nervous because I know what it's like to mess up.
Yeah.
And I have confidence in myself that I can dig myself out of the mess that I get myself into if I do mess up.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes you can definitely turn it into a strength.
Yeah.
Because some people, they get nervous, the adrenaline's going, and then they just, try use it to your advantage, I guess. You know, if you find that works for you, then yeah.
It's just an interesting one. Just sometimes, like I say this quite a lot, you need to be fast to fail. You need to be fast to fail. The reason I say that is if you're constantly in fear of failing, you'll never learn. You have to put yourself out there to the point of failure so that you know where your limit is. Once you learn where your limit is, you can then adjust what you need to do to succeed, and you know how far you can push it. It's the same with playing things that you're not comfortable with. If you fail and look stupid, then you know where that limit is, and you know that you don't go past that limit again. It's how you learn. Failure is like the most important part of learning anything. That's why we have like prelims for exams and stuff, because you need to know where that level of study is, or whatever it happens to be. So you
just need to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you need some sort of metric. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say on that. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. We'll definitely, like all the other topics we cover, we'll definitely come back to them and touch them up. If we encounter any things that are different. But yeah, that's kind of it. That was a good episode, I think.
Yeah. So these
there's
two
going to be a lot of
these two episodes are like
people.
Obviously for live performance, which is obviously no one's live performing in Britain right now. But
it won't be for a while.
It won't be for a while, but it's not going to be forever. So this stuff this will all still apply when things get back to normal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're talking about vaccines just now, and it could,
I saw that.
Yeah, it could be like June, July. They were saying mid-2021 at this point. I don't know how accurate that is, but we will be back. We will be playing these crappy little venues again. We will be back. So yeah, we'll leave it there. That's pretty good. If there's anything that we've missed, or anything that you want us to talk about, write in to levelupyourband.com with your suggestions on episode topics, and we'd be happy to cover it. And if you have a lot of knowledge or expertise in any particular field, and you want to come on to the podcast and be interviewed, send us an email and we'll have a chat. And we're enjoying the interview stuff. And we're definitely going to do a lot more of that in the future. I've been enjoying it anyway. It's good. Rather than just us like talking in our echo chambers.
Yes. Just talking about how amazing we both are.
oh yeah. Like I would say, out of all of the stuff that we are preaching here, I would say I practice like 60% of it. There's so much I need to. Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
So, I don't know what we're going to talk about next week. We'll try and think of something. We've got some interviews potentially lined up, but I'm not sure where that's going to slot in the schedule. So, yeah, it's the usual. I don't know what's going to be next week, but we'll see. So, if you like what you're listening to, please leave us a review, rating, 5-star rating on Apple, all the rest of it, because if you do that, then this podcast will get recommended to people who would potentially get a lot of value listening to it. So if you get a lot of value listening to it and give us a 5-star review, someone else will potentially see that. I actually got a message from someone last week. They were recommended this podcast on their Spotify.
Wow.
Which is really good. And they listened to it and they really liked it. And I might even get them on as a guest at some point. So, keep doing that if you're listening, please, because, it'd be cool to reach more people. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram at Level Up Your Band, all the rest of it. And we're on Spotify and Apple, iTunes, and all the usual places.
Yeah.
But, until next week, hope you're all doing okay. And see you all next time. Bye.
All right. Bye.